What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. The month of August is winding down. Chances are your fantasy draft, if it hasn't passed already, is coming up. It is the perfect time to dive into rankings, and that is exactly what we are doing on tonight's episode. We have already covered QBs and running backs. It is time to move on to the wide receivers, and we have a full plate. All of our rankers are here tonight. It is going to be a great show. Let's talk some wide receivers. What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I am your host, Ryan Weisse, as Joe Zolo is still out, and you guys are not going to see Joe Zolo for a while, so just get used to hearing this voice. But at least for the next couple of weeks, actually, I'm not even here next week, but you're going to have other people to cut my voice, is what I was going to say. We got a lot of people on the show as we break down wide receivers with all of Club Fantasy's consensus rankers. Let's go ahead and start with introductions. My partner in crime, Josh Hudson, is here, of course. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing great. Excited to talk wide receivers because it's gonna be fun. A lot of like really good players bunched into like 8 spots. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's fair. And you just forget how deep wide receivers are. I asked you guys a few ADP questions, and when I was looking, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. That's no way that works with the ADP. It does. You just don't realize how deep wide receiver is. I'll just go around the horn here. So I got my partner in crime when it comes to DFS and mock drafts, Austin Amandolia. How are you doing tonight, friend?
Yeah, I was a little hurt when you were calling Josh your partner in crime.
Yeah,
like, hey.
Technically, I do I know I don't. I was going to say I do way more shows with you, but that is not true because Josh and I do like 3 shows a week when the season starts. So sorry, Austin.
Second place.
Well, surreal Ricky Bobby moment.
I say this is this is what people tuned in for. Drama, friendship drama. Moving on. Joel Wirth, how are you?
I'm good, man. Excited to talk about a real position this week.
Yeah, hey, it's the exact antithesis of what we were doing last week for you. If you hate running backs, you probably like wide receivers. And Chris Molina joins us after having to take last week off. Welcome back, Chris.
Oh, thanks for having me. I missed all the Taylor Swift talk, so I thought I'd represent this week.
There you go. One of our newest additions to the Mock It Like It's Hot Listener League, also a huge Taylor Swift fan. When I redid the draft order yesterday, she got pick 12, and she was pretty upset about that. But then I reminded her that means she also has pick 13, and as a Taylor Swift fan, that should just be great for her.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Exactly. Yeah, Joel, you know. Guys, let's get the show started with NFL news. We're going to be quick about this so we can get into the wide receiver rankings because wide receiver is deep. This could be a long show if we don't. Colts named Daniel Jones as their starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson. They are not destroying Anthony Richardson's future in Indianapolis, but it certainly doesn't help when you get beat out by Daniel Jones.
Anthony Richardson destroyed his own future in Indianapolis. Let's be honest.
That's fair as well. Didn't make the show sheet. I thought it did. The Browns also named Joe Flacco. I don't think that was in time for last week's show. So we saw Joe Flacco named. We saw Daniel Jones named. We have not seen a name given by the New Orleans Saints yet. So that is the last team we are waiting on. There were a couple of trades today, and the Saints were involved. Devon Vell, or is it Vele or Vell? Vele went from Denver to the Saints for a 26 4th and a 27 7th. I'm going to guess this was Josh pointed out, something I've been pointing out on all our shows. While Vele is only a second-year receiver, he is 27 years old and will be 28 this year. So those COVID years, man, made a lot of changes to player ages. The Kansas City Chiefs have given up on wide receiver Sky Moore, as they probably should have a while ago. They traded him to the 49ers for a pick swap, a 7th for a 6th. 49ers needed help because the guy who was supposed to be helping while everybody else was hurt, Demarcus Robinson, is going to serve a 3-game suspension for violating the substance abuse policy. Sticking with wide receivers, it's almost all wide receiver news this week. Jaylen McMillan injured his neck. They are putting him on IR. I read a report he's probably not coming back until after their week 9 bye. If he comes back at all, it is a pretty serious neck injury. And then we'll just move over to the Washington Commanders. Brian Robinson's being floated as a trade target, and then he sat out their preseason game, which usually means they're saving him. So they think they can probably get a deal done. I know Chris might have some thoughts for us on Bill, Ja'Cory, who wants to go as Bill. And then from that same team, Terry McLaurin taken off the PUP by the Commanders, so he is now clear to return to practice, but will he? So let's have some quick thoughts on the NFL news. Josh, I'm going to guess this is you about Shane Steichen, so I'll let you take it away.
Actually, I did not write
No, that was me.
Oh, okay, Joel.
Yeah.
Shane Steichen, take it away.
Congratulations to Shane Steichen on making himself the heavy favorite to be the first coach fired. This is a debacle. I mean, starting Daniel Jones is an absolute joke. This is a guy who in his rookie season averaged 8.1 air yards per attempt, which is below average, has never been above 7.7 since then. He cannot push the ball downfield. He cannot threaten defense. He's an absolute, you get 4 money throws last year on Player Profiler out of 341 passes. That's one every 85. So once every 2.5 games, he makes a throw that an average NFL quarterback should make on a regular basis. This is a travesty. Shane Steichen should be fired for making this decision. Chris Ballard should be fired. This organization is an absolute joke. It gives them a path to clear. I'm not even a Colts fan. I don't care. This is just ridiculous.
But you know what Daniel Jones has never done? Only completed 25% of his passes in one game.
Congratulations on those 4-yard outs.
There you go.
Wandale Robinson.
That's what matters.
I was going to say, Josh Downs meet Wandale Robinson.
I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. I would take my $4,800 Josh Downs every week in DFS and call it a day.
Not on FanDuel.
Yeah. Chris, after our Washington show, you sent me a text singing the praises of then Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. It's now Bill, but talk to me about this player. You seem to know more about him than most.
Well, I mean, he did have his breakout season here in Albuquerque. All 750 Lobo fans, myself included, really enjoyed watching him until he left with the coaching staff to Arizona. And then he got ruled ineligible through some technicality that I don't even understand. After he stuck it to UNM in the first game, which gets overshadowed because that was the game that Tetairoa McMillan had 300 yards receiving or something, something like that. He's a good player. I think if he didn't get robbed by the NCAA, we'd probably be looking at him as a 4th or 5th round pick. Although the way they're talking in Washington, he might just be a rotation piece with Chris Rodriguez. So I would pump the brakes on taking him as high as he's going these days. And I think there was a good trade that I seen in the comments.
Yeah, Jamie dropped in the comments. Sold Bill for a 2026 mid-second round pick in a Superflex draft.
I think that's a great trade. Eckler's going to get the receiving work. He's going to split time with Chris Rodriguez, even though I like the talent and he represented Albuquerque. I don't see how his value gets any higher than what it is right now.
There you go. Josh, Austin, anything you guys want to add in on any of the news?
No, I mean, I wasn't really concerning myself with Devon Vele or Sky Moore anyways, so not a big issue there. And Jaylen McMillan, it's disappointing because he did have a really good season last year as a rookie. So hope the best for his health. I wasn't really targeting that much in fantasy just because Emeka Egbuka kind of diminished his value. So it's not too bad from a fantasy perspective, but hopefully he's able to get healthy and come back. I am sad about Demarcus Robinson because I do like taking him in the 18th to 20th round of best ball drafts for those San Francisco builds. But even with a 3-game suspension, I'll still be drafting him at that point. He's free in those drafts, and I think the upside potential there is interesting for those best ball formats.
Josh, you good?
Yeah, the McMillan news is wheels up for Egbuka. I mean,
I was going to say it's more about what it does for other people.
Yeah, exactly. I will say the Saints trading for Vele, it just really feels like Brandon Cooks is, pun intended, absolutely cooked right now. I mean, seriously, if you're trading a 4th round pick for a 27-year-old second-year player, like, how do you have any trust in the veteran at this point? Because you know
Cooks
your top
come
two
in
guys
young
are,
too. Isn't Cooks only like 30?
Yeah, Cooks came in at like 20 years old. So like Cooks is probably only like a year older than Vele, quite honestly. But yeah, it's I mean, really, it's not good for that Saints offense passing game more or less. But
it was never good to begin with. All right, guys, you will find our rankings at clubfantasyffl.com. They are up right now. You will be able to see these exact rankings that we are talking about. They're updated pretty often. It's a consensus ranking. We also have best ball rankings if you guys are still in best ball drafts. We have 1 week left after this week where we will be covering tight ends. I will not be here for that show, but it's going to be a great show. Make sure you guys tune in. I've already introduced you to the rankers, so let's get to our consensus top 12. As I mentioned, you'll find those on clubfantasyffl.com. Jamar Chase, number 1, absolutely no surprise. CeeDee Lamb at 2, Justin Jefferson at 3, Malik Nabers at 4, Puka Nacua at 5, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 6, Brian Thomas Jr. at 7, Nico Collins 8, AJ Brown 9, Drake London at 10, Tyreek Hill at 11, and Ladd McConkey at 12. When I looked at this consensus, I wasn't quite sure who we were going to talk about. I wasn't even quite sure how much time we need to spend on the top 12, which I'll get to in a moment. I wrote the show sheet as of yesterday, and something changed yesterday. But the question I wanted to start with is going to be a group discussion. You guys can chime in here as you will. We all had Malik Nabers in our top 5. The Giants have all new quarterbacks. It should be the same offense. They have all new quarterbacks. And up until yesterday, he had missed almost 2 straight weeks of practice with a back injury, and back injuries are no joke. He did return to practice yesterday. So this question was a lot better when he hadn't practiced for 2 weeks, but he did return to practice yesterday. So my question to you guys is, are there more red flags on Malik Nabers than anyone's giving credit for? We obviously thoroughly enjoyed what he gave us as a rookie. We're drafting him like he's just going to go out there and do it again. Anybody?
I mean, I can chime in first, but
go ahead, Josh.
All right. Look, Nabers was the most targeted player in the NFL last year, and he played 15 games on a per game basis. He got not 1, not 2, but 3 quarterbacks that are better than the starters last year. I don't know how he can decline. Let's be real here. I mean, by all accounts, it's just, camp soreness is kind of what they've been reporting. As you mentioned, he was back in practice today. The only real downside to what I saw with Nabers last year, when you look at what he was able to do in college at 15.9 yards per reception, he was only at 11 last year. They didn't have quarterbacks that could push the ball downfield. For all of Russ and his deficiencies at quarterback, he still throws one of the better deep balls. Jackson Dart, if I'm not mistaken, was top 3 or top 5 in college football last year in deep ball accuracy and percentage, or air yards or something along those lines. But we know what Jameis Winston does for, wide receivers. So that's the whole reason that Jerry Jeudy's even a top 36 wide receiver for us. So, and again, he played 15 games and had 170 targets this year or last year. What world do we not think that he doesn't have 200 targets if he plays all 17 games this year? Let's be honest. They have nobody else to throw to. You can miss me with the Wan'Dale Robinson love. It just, they don't have anybody else in that offense. Give me all the Malik Nabers this year.
Joel?
Yeah, I mean, Josh nailed it. And Russell Wilson is the anti-Daniel Jones. I mean, it's all he does is push the ball downfield. It's all he wants to do. And Daniel Jones will not push the ball down the field. So, 170 targets in 15 games is absolutely absurd. I don't love Jackson Dart, but he can one read to Malik Nabers. I'm sure about that.
Well, devil's advocate, Joel, couldn't that lead to far fewer targets for Malik Nabers? Because as Josh mentioned, Malik Nabers didn't give us the downfield production that we would have expected from him with his college profile. Russell Wilson's going to throw it deep, but you can't throw it deep on every play. And shouldn't that lessen the target volume?
George Pickens will tell you that Russell Wilson can throw it deep every play.
What did Pickens have last year? 126 targets? What
was his yards per reception last year?
Who, Pickens?
Yeah, it was over 16.
Okay.
That was the offense. That's what Russell Wilson does. He throws.
I think if we're aiming for
Metcalf
George Pickens as a top 5 overall fantasy person, we have the wrong conversation.
Now add the target volume is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I'm just
now put him in a much
all of your targets are downfield.
Much more pass-friendly offense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if all of your targets are downfield and you're not getting the easy targets, it can I'm saying it will balance out. It won't be like, oh, he's getting 200 targets and all of them are 20 or more yards down the field. You're going to lose.
I would put money on Malik Nabers leading the league in air yards this year.
I think that is a fair
170
argument.
Targets, they're not all layups. That just doesn't work.
No, I'm saying like we got to get somewhere in the middle, which is why I have him at 6th. I am not betting on that top 5. I'm the one person that has him out of the top 5. Now, I think there's reason for optimism because he produced with Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle at quarterback. But I don't like the quarterback situation here in general, and I don't want to continue to bet on it's just going to be fine. Like Justin Jefferson had a down season last year with Sam Darnold, who played well, but wasn't targeting Justin Jefferson the way that Kirk Cousins was before. So I'm not going to just bet that, it was a bad quarterback situation and it's going to continue to be a bad quarterback situation.
Austin, Justin Jefferson was the wide receiver too last year.
Thank you.
We were all like,
I don't think this argument is working at all.
Down from what?
From number 1. Apparently there's some feelings involved here because I will say Justin Jefferson didn't carry my team the way he did last year.
I'll give you that. You didn't feel like Justin Jefferson was Jamar Chase. I think it also might just be comparing him to Chase because Chase set the world on fire last year.
That's fair.
The only thing
Giants
I'll
also
add,
get their starting left tackle back. Like, let's not forget that. He missed over half the season last year.
Yeah, and that makes me feel so much better about Jackson Dart.
Go ahead, Chris.
the only thing I'll add here is I think to expand on the quarterback situation not really mattering for Malik Nabers. After Daniel Jones was shipped out and it was Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, and whoever else started for New York, I don't even know. He was on pace from week 12 to the end of the season, 17-game pace of 185 targets, 117 receptions, 1,450 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So even if he misses a couple games, even if the quarterback play is garbage, he should be just fine.
Yeah, I only brought up the deeper, maybe leading to less targets as devil's advocate. I also obviously have him in my top 5. This question was a lot more interesting before he returned to practice because my issue was they were calling it camp soreness. But if camp soreness is keeping you out 2 fucking weeks, that's some sore back problems right there. That's some 40-year-old man back problems, not
You had to carry the offense last year, right?
There you go.
Sore, damn it. Leave him alone.
That's absolutely fair. Guys, let's wrap it up on Malik Nabers. And like I said, I don't want to spend a ton of time on the top 12. The people tuning into the show, the top 12 has been the top 12. Our top 12 is pretty much exactly the ADP top 12. Everything is in lockstep, but I do want to give these guys a chance to talk about the guy they are highest on among the group. So Josh, I was a little shocked that you're the highest on Nico Collins just because we have done so many shows together. And the argument has been Nico Collins versus A.J. Brown, and that's going to come up shortly. But, Josh, you are the highest on Nico Collins, so defend your take.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody really wants a more in-depth response here, just go check out our Houston Texans a look inside preview. I outlined exactly why I think Nico Collins' ceiling is a top 3 wide receiver. But at the end of the day, just look at the new offensive scheme that is coming into Houston. It's the same one that helped vault Drake London into the top 10 amongst fantasy wide receivers. Now what you're doing is you're taking Drake London and giving him Nico Collins' metrics. Nico Collins was top 3 in the NFL in yards per route run the last 2 years. This is, again, you're talking about target volume meets high efficiency yards per reception.
It's what Josh is predicting Malik Nabers is going to be.
There you go.
Literally.
Exactly. And I have Nabers at 4 and Nico at 5.
There you go. No surprise whatsoever.
Nico over the last 2 years has been at 15.5 yards per reception. Again, you start looking at target volume with those downfield threat or targets and receptions and all that good stuff. That's where good things happen. Texans are going to run a ton of 11 personnel. It's going to keep Nico on the field. There's a lot of younger guys outside of Christian Kirk who's oft injured behind Nico Collins. All it takes is a healthy Nico Collins, and he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL.
And they may not have a running game. So.
And that's the other side of it, too. Without Joe Mixon, who knows what you're getting with Nick Chubb? You got a rookie and Woody Marks behind him. The shell of Damian Pierce or whatever he's ever been. Like, they may have to throw the football over 600 times.
Yeah. Should be interesting. And as I pointed out, all summer, and honestly, going back to the spring, we have been debating Nico Collins versus AJ Brown. And one's obviously high volume. The other is extremely high efficiency, not to take away from Nico Collins' efficiency. Austin, you are the highest of these rankers on AJ Brown. So defend your guy.
Yeah, well, I'm a little bit surprised that I'm the one that's highest on AJ Brown, because I thought that Josh's case all summer was that Nico Collins is basically AJ Brown, but worse. Anyways, AJ Brown is top 5 for me because I've said it so many times through our draft shows, like the Philadelphia Eagles offense is going to be inherently different this year because Saquon Barkley is going to regress. They're not going to be playing from ahead as much. And so they will be utilizing AJ Brown through 4 quarters of play instead of through 2 quarters where he gets them ahead by 2 touchdowns. And then that's it. Yeah. It's just, there's also some regression that seems very clear to come favorably towards AJ Brown. His first 2 years in Philadelphia, he had at least 1,400 receiving yards each year. He had nearly 90 receptions the first year. He had over 100 the second year. Last year, he barely got over 1,000 receiving yards and had only 67 receptions. I think that's going to change this year. He's going to bounce back to more of his typical. And when he was hitting those numbers in 2022 and 2023, he was a top 3 to 5 wide receiver.
Yeah, I'll say that Josh hates touchdowns. That's been my story with Josh.
It's really not even that. I only have Nico ahead of AJ Brown by 16 fantasy points. It's not really anything crazy.
Shameful.
But I will say, like, if you're looking at Jalen Hurts versus CJ Stroud, which one can realistically throw 30 touchdowns? It's CJ Stroud. That ultimately gives Nico Collins the higher touchdown upside when it comes to receiving. Again, not saying that it won't be reversed because I'm a big AJ Brown fan and he's done that on numerous occasions. But again, it's just how the chips fall with the projections. That's all.
Chris, I've been a victim of Josh's anti-Detroit Lions propaganda for months now, and he is talking me into hating this offense. You've very publicly, or I guess privately, shamed me through text message for wavering on my love of Amon-Ra St. Brown, but you have not wavered, sir. You are the highest ranker on Amon-Ra St. Brown.
And Josh and I have went back and forth a few times on both Amon-Ra and Nico Collins, so I was not surprised that Josh was the highest on Nico Collins. But for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I understand Josh's point. The offense probably is going to get worse, but Amon-Ra has done this every season. Wide receiver 3 in 2024, wide receiver 3 in 2023, and even 2022, his sophomore season, when people were like, "Oh, it was just a fluke. There wasn't anyone else in Detroit to throw the ball to." He was wide receiver 7, 141 targets every year, or more every year. And what I will say about the offense is, if it gets worse, if the defense gets worse, that might lead to more pass attempts. And who's better to throw the ball to than Amon-Ra St. Brown? Detroit was first in plays per game last year, but 13th in pass attempts per game. So if they're losing in more games, the same argument that's been used for Josh Allen and the Eagles, if they're losing in more games, if they're not blowing teams out, salting the game away, that's going to tilt the other way. Pass attempts is going to get higher. Efficiency is probably going to get worse, but I think he's still a lock for around 150 targets.
Yeah. To be fair to Josh, as we pick on him, Josh has said from the beginning he thinks Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jahmyr Gibbs are probably fine. He's just not loving the Detroit offense. And Joel,
I mean, Amon-Ra is still a top 12 for me. He's wide receiver 11. It's not like I've knocked him that much. Yeah, he's 11.
You hate Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's what I'm gathering.
Absolutely. I absolutely hate the fact that he set career highs in catch percentage and touchdowns. And when an offense regresses, those metrics come down. Sorry.
But this is all on conjecture. The offense.
Again, I wasn't even accusing you of hating him because, as I said, we are in lockstep in the top 12. Obviously, there's some shifts. Like you and Austin, Chris, are actually tied with Amon-Ra at 4, and Joel's at 5. Josh is poisoned me.
Bringing him down. Yeah.
I'll have to figure it out. Joel, you would do Joe Zolo credit. Joe Zolo can't be with us tonight, but you are the highest ranked on just a little Ladd McConkey. Talk to us about it.
I guess I'm surprised by that because I wasn't super high on him coming out of college, but I'm going to take the L on this one. He's just the dude just gets open. I mean, just imagine Zay Flowers on an offense that didn't feature the tight end as heavily and actually scored touchdowns. And that's Ladd McConkey. So yeah, I just a baller. I've got him at 11 and we've got him at 12. So somehow I'm the highest on him. So apparently everyone else has got him at 13, but it's all good.
The PPR ranking, the PPR rankings show you had him at 10, Joel, and everybody else had him at 12 or 13, basically.
Oh, I'm just looking at half PPR. So yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, that's one of the quirks of Fantasy Pros is they will, if you put your rankings in one way, they will use an algorithm to adjust you another way. But again, nobody is extremely off, Joel. I just had to give you somebody in this damn question.
In full PPR, I like him even more. So
what I will ask you though, Joel, there seems to be a large contingency of folks who got a little worried about the target tree when Keenan Allen came back. It doesn't sound like that affects you whatsoever.
Older and fatter Keenan is an indictment of Quentin Johnston and Trey Harris more than it is about Ladd McConkey.
Hilariously, I didn't even see
and their tight ends.
I didn't even see Millie ask that question. Like that was my follow-up question anyway. So Millie, great minds. So I love it. As I mentioned, guys, we're not going to spend a ton of time on top 12. If you guys agree with our top 12, if you disagree with our top 12, drop it in the comments, like, subscribe, do all the things you can do to help Club Fantasy be successful. Another thing we want to see successful this month is Women of Fantasy Football. While we are not doing the special Women of Fantasy Football episodes in August, we are still supporting the foundation. Josh, please talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we're currently raffling off a signed Nico Collins jersey. All of the proceeds from the ticket sales will go towards our WAF Galvanized Scholarship Fund. They're $5 tickets. You can go to the website, womenoffantasyfootball.com. You can click on the graphic with the big Nico Collins jersey. You can also go to the pinned tweet at women_of_FF. Click on that link, and it'll take you right over where you can purchase your tickets. I believe we're right up around $200 raised so far. Next Wednesday is the closing date, and we'll be giving it away on the final episode of Mock Girl Summer, which will be August 28th, featuring Dr. Kevin Murray from
Sweet.
Podcast. Yeah,
oh,
it's gonna be great. Can't wait.
It has been a while, folks, but I remind you all, we are in fact whores. We will do anything for money, and we have a donation from our friend Stephen Drake. Stephen, haven't seen you in a while. Is Joe Mixon worth a 9th round pick at this point? And how do we feel about Stephon Diggs and Cooper Kupp as late round flyers? Let's just go around the horn. Let's try to answer it quickly, but give this man his money's worth, Josh.
Mixon in the 9th. I don't hate it only because there hasn't really been anything definitive that's come out. And I feel like in the 9th round, most people are going to be kind of toss-ups anyway. They could be good. They could not be good. Much preferred Stephon Diggs to Cooper Kupp as a late round flyer, simply because one, I think is going to be much more heavily featured in the offense, and has a quarterback that I actually trust because, Sam Darnold, seriously, really. So that would be, those would be my thoughts.
Chris.
Yeah, Mixon absolutely is worth a 9th round pick, even with the injury concerns. This is someone you would target in a 0 running back build. I hopefully Joel doesn't tell me I'm wrong here, but a starting running back that you can get for cheap after you build your starters and possibly some of your bench. Absolutely. In terms of Diggs, I like Diggs. I'm not the biggest fan of the Patriots offense in general, but he has that upside, of course. Kupp, I don't know what Seattle's doing. Kupp and JSN are basically the same player coming out of the slot. Are they going to line them up outside and have JSN still soak up those targets from the slot? I don't know. So I've cooled quite a bit on Cooper Kupp the summer has went on.
Yeah, and Steven, if you don't know, Chris was very much our biggest Cooper Kupp fan. So for him saying he cooled, that is significant. Joel?
I'm not drafting Joe Mixon. We're hearing things about an infection post-surgery. Like, this has always been a guy who's gotten by on volume and not efficiency. So if he's limited at all, that if he doesn't come back until midseason, it's a disaster. It's a terrible offensive line. I don't want to deal with that. I'm coming around on Kupp. The Seattle, maybe I'm buying preseason hype, but this Seattle offense looks good. It looks like they've fixed their offensive line. Gray Zabel looks like an absolute baller. So yeah, I'm kind of feeling the Seattle offense. So I was out on Cooper Kupp entirely, but I'm starting to come around a little bit.
Hey, Joel, remember when Clint Kubiak shot out of the gate the first 2 weeks last year with the Saints? What happened after that?
I think I got hurt.
Every time I think I'm in agreement with Joel, I'm like, yes, we're the zero RB guys. He's like, no, dude, you're wrong.
If I had any confidence that Joe Mixon was going to play the majority of the season, I would absolutely be in on him. But I think this injury is much more serious than they're letting on.
I was gonna say he's straight up tumbled for me down my ranking. So, I mean, I definitely understand like fading him altogether. He's been historically inefficient. It's not a great offensive line. I just think with the 9th round, it's a okay dart throw in the event that it's not as serious as it ultimately turns out to be.
Austin, bring us home on Steven's question.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, to me, it's all about opportunity cost and what you're giving up in the 9th round. So right around there, you could be getting a Darnell Mooney, a Zach Charbonnet. While I'm not as high on J.K. Dobbins, you could get a J.K. Dobbins, and I feel like he will probably be on the field more than Joe Mixon will. Also, that might be like your quarterback range. If you haven't drafted a quarterback yet, you can get Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Bo Nix in that range. Or you can get one of those high upside tight ends at this range too, and Mark Andrews or Tyler Warren. So yeah, like I guess in a vacuum, 9th round is where I'd be interested in Joe Mixon. But given the other players going off there, I would still go another direction. I mean, he goes just after Brian Robinson, and this is all using underdog ADP. So that may be skewing things a bit, but because of that, I'm not going after Joe Mixon. And I would say, just tying into the Diggs and Cup question, first off, if you're taking Cooper Kupp, you're having to pick between either Joe Mixon or Cooper Kupp. And if I'm picking between those two, I'm taking Cooper Kupp because I think the upside is still important, because at any given week, I still think he can hit that 20, 30 point ceiling. And I think he will be able to get that PPR volume. I will say I'm interested in the ADP that Steven is using, because I would not consider Stephon Diggs a late round flyer. On underdog, he is the wide receiver 38. That's not going to be late round on underdog. So you're having to kind of pay it for him. Now, elsewhere, I think he's lower. And if he is going like round 9, 10 or later, I do think it's worth it, because I think with Drake May, he could have some really good upside.
There you go. If you guys have learned anything from this, if you want to make sure you get your question on the air, give us a little bit of money. We drop the entire show sheet. We answer your question for you. I promise it's going to a good cause, so we can finally pay some of these people for the work they're doing. And, you know, a lot of it goes towards women in fantasy football as well. As we move on to the next set of the consensus, this is 13 to 24, or what most leagues would call your wide receiver 2s. We got Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams at 13 and 14, Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, Tee Higgins, Jackson Smith and Jigba, DJ Moore, Devonta Smith, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin coming in at 22, Xavier Worthy at 23, and then rounding it out is Tetairoa McMillan as the wide receiver 24. Just like last week, coincidentally, you guys all have one of these players ranked above everybody else. So we're just going to keep going with you guys defending your take. And so I'm going to end with DK Metcalf. So let's start. Austin, you have Tee Higgins ranked in your top 12. You're the only ranker of this group that is moving him up the consensus. Talk to me a little bit about Tee Higgins.
Yeah, I mean, some of this is very much health related. Like the last time he played a full season was in 2022. And I think that's a big reason why he has fallen outside of the top 12 consensus wise. I think when he is on the field, I did not look up the stat, and I'll stall long enough to look up the stat, but I feel like if you look like on a points per game basis, my imagination is that he's going to be pretty high up there. And so I think, to me, like the case for him making the top 12 is essentially that he is able to stay on the field for a full season. And that might,
I believe he was wide receiver 5 in points per game last year.
Incredible. Thank you. I did stall long enough for somebody to get the answer. So that's perfect. And that's really my whole case there, is when he's on the field, he's really good. He makes spectacular catches. He gets targeted very significantly. And, if there's a world where it doesn't hurt to be the wide receiver behind Jamar Chase. Like if he's getting help when Jamar Chase is on the field, and if, God forbid, Jamar Chase is off the field, he's going to be helped then too and get even more volume.
Joel, I was not surprised to see you highest on Garrett Wilson. You wrote an entire article about it.
Garrett Wilson's a baller. Had a monster season with Aaron Rodgers last year, who he should not, right? Garrett Wilson's a freelancer, and Aaron Rodgers hates freelancers. He wants him to know what subtle head nod he used when Garrett Wilson was in 8th grade that he hasn't used in 17 years means. So, yeah, you put him now, you get the shower narrative with Justin Fields, who he played with at Ohio State. He's going to have that connection. He is the only game in town, unless they start splitting Breece Hall out at receiver. Their second best receiver is a rookie tight end. So I think he's going to flirt with a 35% target share in that offense. He could have an absolutely monster season.
Chris, you're still holding on hope for my guy Mike Evans, and I wonder how much of this is the Jaylen McMillan injury, or were you just this high on Evans before all of this?
I was actually this high on Evans before all this, so I can't believe I'm the only one with him inside the top 17, much less the top 12. Ryan, I'm ashamed.
I will say, after McMillan, I went and redid my Buccaneers. I didn't want to fuck up the consensus for this episode, so I have not. I will update my rankings tomorrow.
Okay, because I'm the actual Mike Evans truther on the show.
Yeah, it's I'm out of my element.
He's had at least 70 receptions since every season since 2020. 9 of 11 years he's hit that mark, and all 11 he's hit 67 or more. And then every year, of course, he's hit the 1,000-yard mark. That's already 170 points minimum. You can just pencil that in. And then he's had 11 or more touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 years. He's catching passes from Josh's favorite quarterback. So I think you can pencil him in for another 11 touchdowns as well. That's already flirting with top 12. That's top 15. Yeah. And McMillan's hurt, which is really unfortunate. Godwin might not be ready for week 1. Egbuka, as much as the community loves Egbuka, he's still a rookie. He might be the only show in town to start the year, and I'm fine with taking him inside my top 12.
Yeah. Josh, bring us home on DK Metcalf. I'm not surprised how much you love DK Metcalf. I am surprised by how much one of our rankers hates DK Metcalf, but we'll get to that after you shower him with love.
Yeah, once again, I'll say check out our Steelers preview, a look inside episode. I wax poetic about DK Metcalf there and through a couple of our shows. But look, at the end of the day, who the fuck else is Aaron Rodgers throwing to? I mean, there's no other pass catchers on that team. Jonnu Smith is there, yes. Jaylen Warren's there, sure. But none of them consistently see over 100 targets per season. That is DK Metcalf's game. The big question is ultimately going to be, what offense do we see? Do we see Arthur Smith's offense, or do we see Aaron Rodgers' offense? If we see Arthur Smith's offense, you're still going to have a 100-target DK Metcalf. And you still have the upside for 10-plus touchdowns because they're only going to throw like 20 this year. But with DK, every year he's over 1,000 yards. 3 of his 6 seasons he's been over 1,000, Every year he's been over 100 targets. Twice he's had 10-plus touchdowns. They're going to run the football a ton, sure, but they throw the ball deep. DK averages close to 15 yards per reception over his entire career. He is a deep threat, and quite honestly, he will do that and catch touchdowns the way that George Pickens never could for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there's that level of upside. If you're flipping that, well, if this is Aaron Rodgers' offense and they're going to throw the football close to 550 times, once again, I say, who else is Aaron Rodgers throwing to? Because that now puts DK in the category of a 27+% target share, which I want to actually point out that when Arthur Smith was in Atlanta, Drake London once had a 27% target share. So even if this is Arthur Smith's offense, DK Metcalf can still see a 27+% target share. So the opportunity is going to be there, even in a lower volume passing offense. He still has the touchdown upside that no one else in this offense can possess. He has the history of 1,000 yards. It's all there. Like, people just shy away from these like run heavy offenses, lone pass catchers, etc. If that's the case, why is AJ Brown a top 10 wide receiver? Why is Ladd McConkey a top 10 wide receiver? These are all guys that are in the exact same situations. They're the number one guys in run heavy offenses. When you score touchdowns, when you can be that dominant guy, it's okay to draft them in fantasy.
Joel, go ahead, Chris.
Ryan, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to properly shame 2 of our top 5 rankers I'm seeing have DK Metcalf outside the top 30. Austin and Joel. So I just want to throw that
I picked Joel just because of how he was 4 ranks lower than Austin. I wasn't even going to do counter arguments in this, but I think this is the biggest dichotomy in our whole ranking set, where Josh has DK at 12 and Joel has him at 34. So Joel, talk to us about, I think this might be an Aaron Rodgers issue, but maybe it's a combination.
Well, how can it be an Aaron Rodgers issue? He had 2 top 10 wide receivers last year with Adams.
Joel hates Aaron Rodgers, Josh. Shut the fuck up.
Okay, but he's waxing poetic about Garrett Wilson. Like,
it's an Aaron Rodgers issue and it's an Arthur Smith issue. Arthur Smith offense is where wide receiver ones go to die. Where DK Metcalf wins along the boundary deep and doing deep crossers is where Aaron Rodgers is completely unreliable at this point in his career. He can still make some sublime throws. He is remarkably inconsistent. Like the deep ball is gone. It's been gone since 22 was last year with the Packers. He cannot do it. He cannot do it consistently anymore. It's a terrible fit. It's just an absolute. The offense is a terrible fit. The quarterback is a terrible fit. They're going to run the ball a ton. They're going to want to play defense and run the ball. It's just this is not a guy who's beaten you. Like this has got. If you didn't take DK Metcalf, when was the last time he beat you? 2020, 2019, something like that. He's been good. He's never been great. So and now you're putting him in a terrible situation with an aging quarterback who he has no familiarity with. Yeah, no, not for me.
They were catching passes together this offseason. What are you talking about, Joel? That's the equivalent of going to brunch together.
Yes.
Austin,
that is more than Aaron Rodgers did in like 15 of his 19 off seasons. But yeah, so
Austin, anything to throw in on the DK Metcalf hatred?
I mean, I think Joel covered it pretty well. The only thing I have to add is I think this offense is going to be bad. I don't think the production is going to be there. They didn't really score touchdowns last year. I don't imagine them scoring a lot of touchdowns this year. It's going to be important for DK Metcalf to have a successful fantasy output. And I am down on Aaron Rodgers. I think Arthur Smith, like, he does weird stuff. He's going to spread the ball around. Like, yeah, he gave Drake London all that volume one year, but then he sinks Kyle Pitts' value the next year so that Jonnu Smith could go get goal line, red zone touches. I can't predict where this is going. I think they invested in the running back room so that they can run the ball. And that's also Arthur Smith's strength, is putting together a really good run game. Yeah, he has some creative stuff in the pass game as well, but I think overall, like, the offense is going to not score a lot of points. And I don't think the volume's going to be there for Metcalf.
Before I have you guys go negative on some more players, and before we get further away from our top 12, we actually have a question about the top 12. And as I mentioned, there wasn't a ton of time to spend on these because they are packed so tightly. But I guess which one you would choose is a great question. Let's try to keep it short, but let's go out and just say how we would draft these guys. Joel, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, they are my 4, 5, 6, and 7. So take your pick.
Yeah. Well, who's your 4?
My 4 is Nabers.
I do want to throw out, we're going to be kind. It is Mr. Vitor's first time playing fantasy football. So you have Nabers as your 4. I think
don't stress, man. You can't go wrong with this pick.
Chris.
I'm wondering, all 4 are still available. That's pretty awesome. I would still go Puka with the good news coming out of Rams camp about Stafford this week. But if you want to play it a little bit safer, I'd go Amon-Ra.
I say at the beginning of the show, Chris was defending Amon-Ra. So Josh?
I'll agree with Chris in the sense that Amon-Ra is definitely the safest pick. But I'll lean into my rankings. Like, Malik Nabers is tops for me. It's Malik Nabers, it's Nico, it's Puka, and then a little bit further down, it's Amon-Ra. So
I was about to say, you better pick Malik Nabers after you say he's going to get 200 targets.
Well, it's a safe option. Like, look, anytime if you're stressing, it's your first time playing, like, it's okay to play it safe. Like, and that's why I said, like, you want to play it safe with Nabers. Me, I'm going to shoot for the freaking moon, and I'm going to take the guy that has the closest opportunity to 200 targets, and that's Malik Nabers.
Austin.
Yeah, the benefit here is that not only is the safest pick my favorite pick for this, but it's also I'm one of 2 of us that have the safest pick ranked the highest in Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that is the safest bet of these 4. To me, it's a coin flip between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua. I would have them just edging out Malik Nabers, and then I'd probably have Nico Collins a little bit behind this group of 3.
Yep. I'll sum it up with, I would also go with Malik Nabers by my rankings, but I completely agree with what they're saying. I think your safest bet in full PPR is Amon-Ra or Puka, but if you want to shoot for the moon, go with Malik Nabers. Nino, I saw your question. Give us a little bit. Let's work through the show a little bit, and I will get you up after the next segment. As I mentioned, I'm going to let you guys go a little negative here again. These are the players from the 13 to 24 group that you have ranked the lowest among the group. Josh, you are not a fan of Mr. Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Have I ever been a fan of Jackson Smith-Njigba? again, you can
Such
check
a
out
hater.
our Seattle Seahawks Look Inside episode for a little bit more information. But at the end of the day, JSN is a slot wide receiver. Clint Kubiak is not going to run a ton of 11 personnel. He tends to do a lot more jumbo packages, 12 personnel. He's going to have 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, essentially 2 wide receivers. So you're basically putting JSN out of position as an outside wide receiver where he's not good about creating separation and press coverage. And that's really what it boils down to. Like, people want to look at JSN finished as the wide receiver 9 last year. Look a little bit closer. Points per game, he was the wide receiver 20. Guys get hurt. It's what happens. JSN benefited from being healthy last year. So, in a vacuum, if everybody's healthy, I don't see him paying off at ADP, especially when you look at the system. Chris mentioned it earlier. What Cooper Kupp does, what JSN does, it's the same exact thing, and neither of those things really fit with what Clint Kubiak wants to do on offense. That's why I think you're seeing a lot more of Torrey Horton in the preseason, because he's a bigger, fast outside wide receiver. That's why they went out and signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. They need those speed guys on the outside. Jason's just not really that. So I just don't see him paying off at ADP. That's why I'm a lot lower than consensus is on him.
There you go. I wouldn't say you're a lot lower, Austin, but you are.
I was a lot lower earlier in the year when he was like wide receiver 33 for me.
Talking to Austin, Josh. It's called a transition, and you cut me off. I was gonna say I wouldn't say you're a lot lower on the rookie in Carolina, Austin, but you are lower than the rest of us on Tetairoa McMillan.
Yeah, which is funny because I moved him up in my rankings when I did this, but somehow he still ended up lower than everybody else. I am only 6 positions lower on him than the expert consensus ranking on Fantasy Pros. I think it's a similar story that I honestly have with DK Metcalf in Pittsburgh. Is I'm not really that high on the Carolina Panthers offense this year. I think they're going to continue to be fairly run heavy. I do feel like Tetairoa McMillan is going to get plenty of targets to carry some value in this. It's just like this is the never-ending problem with the receivers in fantasy. There are so many good ones. You just end up having somebody ranked at wide receiver 35. It's like, I would be fine if they're my wide receiver too, but there's just so many other good guys that I'm like, I would rather have instead of them. Like, I would rather have Rome Odunze and Chris Godwin over Tetairoa McMillan, even with Chris Godwin's injury, because before he got hurt last year, he was wide receiver 2 in points per game. Yeah. So it's one of those things where there are guys I like more, but the Panthers, I could see them underperforming expectations. They're like the trendy team to be in on this year because everybody's like, oh, Bryce Young, he looked so good down the stretch last year. And I'm like, oh, he looked fine down the stretch last year, but we got to see more of an improvement if this is going to really pay off.
As the resident overhyper of the Carolina Panthers, after covering them for 3 weeks for Football Guys, I am off this train completely. I think this offense might be a train wreck. I'm just throwing that out there. The reports.
Don't do it, Ryan. Don't give in.
The reports are not great. I'm just telling you what I'm reading. I do want to give Josh, since we give Josh such a hard time on the show, the chat is loving your JSN take, Josh. But Chris, talk to me about why you're not loving the Xavier Worthy hype.
Oh, I'm glad that I was one spot higher on Tetairoa than Austin, because I was like, I don't really know how to.
especially because I'm pretty sure you gave me a lot of hell early in the year for being like, I'm not in on him in dynasty drafts.
Yeah, that's true. Fair point. Xavier Worthy, I didn't realize I was the lowest on him at wide receiver 35.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with the unknown of Rashee Rice.
I kind of figured.
If reports are NFL's pushing for a double-digit game suspension on him, but will it be just 4 games? Will it be decided this year? I mean, they already pushed his hearing out until the end of September, so I'm like, there's a lot of unknown about the pass catchers in KC. But let's just say he misses 6 games. He missed a lot of time last year. Xavier Worthy was the wide receiver 33. Now add in Hollywood Brown. Maybe Travis Kelce is on that revenge tour. He's in his revenge era. Hopefully that'd be cool. I like Travis Kelce. But they don't really need him to be more than a 100 target guy, which he kind of was last year, to stretch the defenses. And also maybe the run game's better too. Isaiah Pacheco, didn't he like break his leg at the beginning of the year and miss like is that why he missed the time? Broken leg? That's
Yep.
It's going to take a little bit of time to, get back into the thick of things at that point. But if the run game's better, then that's a good thing for the offense, but not necessarily for pass attempts. Anyways, he's only like 30 points behind my like wide receiver 25.
Exactly.
Again, at the end of the day, I'm fine with Xavier Worthy. Same thing what Austin said as my wide receiver too. But
I'm being quite facetious when I say you guys hate these people. There's no true hatred there, except it sounds like Josh hates JSN and you guys might hate DK Metcalf. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, they do.
Joel, I had you go after one Pennsylvania wide receiver. Let's go after another. You are our lowest ranker on Mr. DeVonta Smith out there in Philadelphia.
How is that possible? I love DeVonta Smith. I don't get it. I'll try and make the bear case. I don't know. He's
let me be clear. Yeah, I like to point this out when Joel points stuff like this out. We're talking about our 13 to 24, and Joel has him at 26. It's not like he hates him. We just all have him higher. I am the highest.
He's starting to get dinged up a little bit. He's starting to carry a few injuries. He's been in and out of training camp, missed 3 games last year, or 3 or 4 games last year. He's a better in best ball guy because he has these kind of rando games where he just doesn't get any targets or any receptions. That happens sometimes. Yeah, he's still super explosive. I'm not going to spend too much time on beating up on DeVonta Smith.
Nino did have a question. I want to get to that before we close this segment out. Nino says they shouldn't feel really pressured about taking Joe Burrow in the 4th, right? They want to go with Jamar and 2 running backs at the turn, then like 4 our wide receivers at 4 and 5. I'm going to let Joel start with this, Joel, because you were the one who made the case on our quarterback show about grabbing the elite quarterback and not worrying about it. But is Joe Burrow that for you?
No. I have made the case multiple times that I wouldn't even take, like in best ball, yeah, you want to stack him. I would not even take him at 72. I would want to wait. I think he should be going much closer to Baker Mayfield, to Patrick Mahomes, to Bo Nix, Kyler Murray. He should be going in that tier. He should not be going in a tier by himself between the top 4 guys and that second tier. I think it's an absolute mistake. We talked about that Bengals defense. Like they were just getting absolutely run over the other night. They may have 20 minutes of possession every game. Like their defense could really hurt their offense this year if teams just decide they would just want to run on them and sit on the ball and keep their offense off the field. I am very down on Joe Burrow. I am not going out of my way to stack him.
Does anybody want to make the case to grab this stack?
No, I just want to affirm, like, especially in redraft, I don't think you should force a stack at all. If you're in best ball, spoiler alert, if you watch the best ball episode that'll drop on Friday, I made the case that the better way to potentially go with the Bengals stack is to draft Jamar Chase and then wait and get Kyler Murray as the quarterback later on, as the bring back on the other side of that week 17 game instead of trying to force, because if this is best ball specific, there are going to be a lot of Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow teams. And so getting different from that is going to be crucial.
I'm in 100% agreement with Austin here about best ball. It stacks up to where you can grab him and, at that 4 or 5 turn really easily. So that's why Chase and Burrow is going to be very popular in best ball. In redraft, I'm not touching that. Say Burrow for someone else, maybe if he pops up in the 6th or 7th, I'd give it some thought there. But yeah, I'm not forcing it.
As we move on to the dark horses from the 13 to 24 group, I'm trying to decide if I want to start with Chris or end with Chris, because everybody else on this list has already been mentioned. So let's start with Chris, because everybody else has already had a little bit of airtime with these player names. So Chris, you're the only one with a unique player. What I want you to tell me is which receiver from this group could finish as a top 5, and tell me what story it takes for that to happen.
I went with Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, he's got that top five draft pick upside. It didn't really happen as a rookie, and we've been spoiled with rookies like Malik Nabers, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, players like that like rises our level of expectations on these rookies. Yeah. But it might have taken him just a year to get going. He still had 116 targets. He still averaged over 14 yards per reception and had 8 touchdowns in an offense that's really boring. If if they find a way to, get him the ball more, put him in motion, run some more pre-snap looks instead of just, getting up to the line, snapping it with him on the outside, I think he can rise to the level of 130, 140 targets and, double-digit touchdowns, hopefully. And that would make it worthwhile. I mean, everyone was picking him in the top 15 last year for a reason. He's super talented. It's just, can the boring Cardinals offense support him? I hope so.
Josh, we've heard some negative about Xavier Worthy. Tell me the story of how he is a top 5 wide receiver this season.
We've seen Tyreek Hill in this Chiefs offense, right? I mean, that's essentially what your ceiling is with Xavier Worthy. Andy Reid loves speed. He knows how to use speed. He's used it going back to his Eagles days with guys like Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin. He used it with Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. Now he's got Xavier Worthy. Part of this is clearly Rashee Rice dependent, right? We talked on our Chiefs preview show about how, Rice and Worthy are very different in terms of the routes that they run. But when you have a healthy, Rashee Rice, when you have a healthy Hollywood Brown, when you have a healthy Isaiah Pacheco, teams aren't going to double cover Xavier Worthy. They're not going to put that high-low coverage over top because now you're leaving the middle of the field completely wide open for guys like Rice and Kelsey and the running game to go through and, keep the offense moving, right? Andy Reid is going to take shots. I'm not saying that Xavier Worthy is going to be some 8-9 target guy, but there's a world where he can work his way into that. If Kelsey's struggling a little bit, if Rice is struggling a little bit, or any of these other guys come through. Yeah. We saw the last 3 games that he played in the regular season last year. He had 31 targets over those 3 games. So it's not like he can't see a heavy target volume, but they're going to use him down the field. They started to work him in that sort of role towards the end of last year. He started to get a little bit more comfortable with it. Obviously in garbage time, we saw what he was able to do in the Super Bowl, 8 for 157, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. So, there's that level of upside in those big 30-point kind of spike weeks that can carry you into that top 5 realm if he's able to get into that 130, 140 target range.
Joel, we heard some lukewarmness about Tetairoa McMillan, but tell me a story of how the rookie finishes as a top 5 wide receiver.
You guys are bagging on Carolina, but listen to these first 6 weeks of the season. Jacksonville, Arizona, Atlanta, New England, Miami, Dallas.
Very fair.
4 defenses I'm going to be attacking in DFS and 2 very young defenses that are going to take some time to gel. This team is going to have a massive runway to get going. They may be struggling in camp, but they're going to have a huge runway to get that plane in the air. Everything that Chris said about Mike Evans, take that, use that as your baseline and put that on a 22-year-old because that's what you're getting at Tet McMillan.
And that was what I said on draft night. and I hope that you guys are right because I want to love this kid. I obviously love Bryce Young. I'm just scared. Very, very scared. And Austin, we've already heard some positive about Garrett Wilson, but tell me a story about how we're high on him, but not high enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say just as one note, I would have picked Marvin Harrison for this, but I was last to get the show sheet, so that was already taken. And I think Garrett Wilson is frankly the only other player that we have ranked 13th through 24th that actually has the potential to do this. And I think, the case was made very elegantly earlier about him by Joel. It's really, does he get that actual ridiculous volume that we think he could in the Jets offense?
Who else are they throwing to?
That's the thing. Now, ironically, I'm fairly low on Garrett Wilson. I have him ranked 16th, whereas our consensus is 13th. So,
this is just about that crazy upside.
I'm not feeling that great about it, but I do think he has a potential upside because of the sheer volume. I think it'll be tough for any of these guys to actually do it, but I think if anyone can do it, it's going to be Marvin Harrison or Garrett Wilson.
There you go. We're going to move on. I'm actually going to do consensus top 25 to 36 for wide receivers. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but I think their names deserve mentioned. Before we do so, I will remind you that we are partners with Trophy Smack. It is fantasy football season, and Trophy Smack has all the goods you need to show off your excellence and intimidate your league mates. Get yourself a draft board. If you guys are doing live drafts over the next couple of weeks, if you've never done one, I highly recommend it. Get a draft board, get some championship swag, and for a limited time, if you use promo code CLUBFANTASY and you purchase either a belt, like this very cool one I have behind me, or a trophy, as long as those items cost more than $149, you will also get a free championship ring. You will find the affiliate link in the description of this video. It is promo code Club Fantasy to get a free championship ring with a belt or trophy purchase of more than $149. As I mentioned, with these guys, we're not going to spend a ton of time here. I'm just going to have these guys each pick their favorite, basically. But I did think all of these players deserve to be mentioned with the deep that wide receiver is in fantasy football right now. At 25, we have Calvin Ridley. 26 is Cortland Sutton. 27, Zay Flowers. 28, Jamison Williams. 29, Jaylen Waddle. 30, Chris Olave. 31, George Pickens. 32, Travis Hunter. Rome Odunze comes in at 33. Stephon Diggs at 34. I obviously doubled up on a number here. Oh, no, it's the next page. I'm just an idiot. Stephon Diggs at 34. Jerry Jeudy at 35. And Jacoby Myers at 36. Hosting is hard. Don't judge me. Same as last section. Defend your take. Let's start with Chris. I haven't heard your voice in a while. You are my highest ranker from this group on Mr. Jaylen Waddle, a player that I learned to hate last year.
And I learned to appreciate. I've listened to the shows. I listened to the Dolphins take, and I agree with a lot of what Josh has said about Jaylen Waddle, especially after they shipped Jonnu Smith out of town. The signals to me an offense that's willing to go back to what they were, assuming health for Tua. And Jaylen Waddle's done it before. He's handled the massive 140 target share. He's handled the 110, 115 targets, and with the way he gets downfield and the way he is after the catch, all he needs is 110 to 115 targets to, smash through what his ADP is currently. I know he gets hurt a lot, but he's only missed 6 games in 5 years. So chances are he plays 14 to 16 games this year. And he's extremely explosive. I don't know what else to say about Jaylen Waddle.
No, that's fine. Like I said,
well, I'll add this really quick, Chris. Like the way that they're talking in camp is about how, Tyreek Hill needs to regain the trust of not only the teammates, but Tua as well. And if he ends up starting slow, that's only going to benefit Jaylen Waddle, who Tua has a previous relationship going all the way back to college with.
And to add on that point, that reminds me, he was top 10 when Tyreek Hill was number 2 overall.
Yeah.
So even if Tyreek Hill starts slow, you could see Jaylen Waddle being the number 1 guy in the offense. Or even if it progresses to the other way, where 31-year-old Tyreek Hill is the guy. Jonnu Smith had over 100 targets last year. They're going somewhere, and they're not going to any other wide receivers.
Yeah, I was also going to point out, I was quick to give too much credit to Darren Waller, and it's not like I was over giving him credit, but this man just got off the pup list
60
yesterday.
targets kind of thing.
It's not looking great for Darren Waller filling that Jonnu Smith role. Joel, we haven't heard from you in a while. You are my highest person in this rank on Mr. George Pickens.
Yeah, I just talked about how bad Dallas's defense is going to be. I think a lot of people talk about or think about Brian Schottenheimer, and they think that, he's his dad's kid and he's going to run the ball a lot. This is the guy who was the offensive coordinator for Seattle in 2020 when they actually started to let Russ cook for a little bit. He had a career high 40 touchdowns, and then Pete Carroll said, "Now you're stressing my defense. You need to stop doing that." This is a very pass heavy coach and coordinator. They don't have a serious running back room. Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders and Jaden Blue is not a serious running back room. They're not even going to try to run the ball.
Yeah.
This is going to be a chuck and duck offense, and it's going to be CeeDee Lamb and it's going to be George Pickens. They're both going to eat a ton of time. Jake Ferguson's a nice player. He's a former Badger. I love him. He's not a good player. He's not going to take up a bunch of targets. This is going to be all CeeDee Lamb and all George Pickens.
There you go. Austin, Rome Odunze. There was a little bit of a fight before the show about you shouldn't have to defend yourself about Rome Odunze.
Yeah, I agree. I should not have to be defending myself about Rome Odunze. Whoever said that was smart. No, I think it's 2 things. It's one, it's betting on Caleb Williams to take a step forward. I think he is going to do much better in this offense with Ben Johnson running the show than he did last year. Last year, the coaching job was just horrific in Chicago in general. And I think, too, no longer having Keenan Allen there helps clarify the roles for DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. I think having Keenan Allen there made things too complicated. There were too many mouths to feed, trying to get too many people involved. And so Rome Odunze got overshadowed in that. I He's going to take a big step forward. I could see him getting a ton of targets this year. And let's not forget, there were people last year that were like, oh, Rome Odunze is the number one receiver over Malik Nabers and Marvin Harrison for the NFL draft.
Wait, Chris over down that way. Or not Chris, Joel.
I was
Joel
like,
was all in on Rome Odunze last year.
Yeah, I was.
He had the elite pedigree, and I think it was deserved. Now, I think Marvin Harrison was ahead of him very clearly, and I think Malik Nabers was too, but he was a clear number 3 consensus across the board. And so I feel very comfortable with the idea that he takes a step forward in this year in a Ben Johnson offense and an improved situation for Caleb Williams.
I do see the chat questions, guys. Give us just a second as Josh brings us home on Calvin Ridley, who I was the highest on for the longest period of time. Josh, I've calmed down a little bit, and I don't even know why. I might need to take a look at my own rankings there. So,
I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's Cam Ward. He's not going to be afraid to throw the football. This is not a great football team. They do have a decent offensive line, though. It's ultimately going to boil down to the types of decisions that Cam Ward makes. But when you look at history of Cam Ward, and I am a Miami Hurricanes fan, I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. He averaged over 37 pass attempts last year. This Titans offense is a derivative of what the Bengals do. The Bengals throw the football, barely run the football. What does that tell you? Cam Ward's going to sling it. Who does he have to sling it to? It's Calvin Ridley and a bunch of Jags. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. So Calvin Ridley has over 1,000 yards each of the last 2 seasons. He only had 4 touchdowns last year, which contributed to the fact that he was only the wide receiver 28. But again, just 3 more touchdowns gets him to 7, and he's now a top 20 wide receiver. That's all it takes. 1,007 is very realistic in this offense with competent quarterback play.
There you go. Let's get these chat questions in before we talk about the first sleeper I think we need to talk about. Kyle Seibert Audio asks, are we keeping Josh Allen for a 3rd-round pick or Derrick Henry for a 1st-round pick? It would be the 10th overall pick in either of these 2 rounds since they're both odd rounds. So the 110 to keep Derrick Henry or the 310 to keep Josh Allen. Joel, I'm going to start with you because I think I know where you're going.
Half PPR, I want touchdown, so give me Derrick Henry. I'm assuming that the guys ahead of them
not know where you were going.
This wasn't Lamar.
That's not Lamar. If it was Lamar, it'd be different. Sorry. I'm just
you trade Josh Allen for Lamar.
the guys who are ahead of him in my rankings would be kept in that scenario. So yeah, I think I want Derrick Henry in half PPR. I want a lot of touchdowns.
Anybody want to defend Josh Allen at the 310?
I mean, he's always the QB1 or the QB2, so I would definitely consider it, but I don't think you can really go wrong in this situation. I think the thing is, like, depending on what do you know about your league? Are they going to let Josh Allen fall to the 310? Because you could still get Josh Allen again there. You arguably could potentially still get Derrick Henry at the 110. So to me, it's kind of like, how do you see the draft playing out before you? If you think one of those guys can fall where you're going to have them anyways, keep the other guy.
I think when you're dealing with keepers, it's more likely that somebody's going to keep a position player over a quarterback. So you're probably more likely to have a shot at Josh Allen in the 3rd than you are Derrick Henry in the 1st.
It's a good point. You may also
people that are being kept, and especially in a half PPR, guys like Derrick Henry are more valuable because catching passes isn't going to, drag them further down the way that Derrick Henry's dragged down in Ryan's running back rankings in PPR format. So, Derrick Henry at 10th overall in a half PPR league, like, that's perfectly fine. But if you don't keep him, there's a chance that he's probably a top 3 pick. So you're not going to have a shot.
And what I'll add to Josh's point is there's also a chance that a lot of running backs are being kept. So the running back pool is already diluted. And if everybody's not paying a 1st-round pick, you already have a diluted pool. And then every early pick is also spent on running backs. Derrick Henry at 10 might be your savior if that's the case here. Chris, anything to add on this one before we move on to the next one?
Nope. I agree with everyone.
Well, then, Chris, get us started on Zah's question. It's a trade question in Dynasty. They have they would trade away, I believe, A.J. Brown and Monty to get Jawan Jennings and Chase Brown. He already has Justin Jefferson, Drake London, and then A.J. Brown. He has Monty, Breece Hall. Will he do the trade? So essentially, in my opinion, this question, Jawan Jennings does nothing for me in this. Is the Chase Brown upgrade worth A.J. Brown, Chris?
No, it's not. Not in Dynasty. AJ Brown's still fairly young. He's still got at least 3-4 years in his prime before
Oh, we just lost Chris.
We lost Chris.
Decline. Jefferson and Drake London. I was like, I hear you guys. I see you guys. I don't know what happened.
Little internet hiccups today.
I lost you guys.
Yeah.
Just enjoy your amazing wide receiver room. Maybe try and upgrade your running back 2 or running back 3 via other means. But I would just keep AJ Brown. So.
Yeah, keeping it simple. Is anybody taking this trade? I can't imagine.
Nope.
We're going to move on, Zod. Do not take that trade. Hang on to A.J. Brown. Before we move on to what I'm calling the deep sleepers, everybody outside of 36, there's a player I think we have to talk about on a wide receiver episode. He's the rookie that we haven't even mentioned once in the show outside of when I did the consensus, because nobody is all that high on him, and that is Travis Hunter. And I'm going to start this discussion by talking about offense-only leagues, and I'm going to let two people talk to start this thing off. Joel, you have Travis Hunter as your wide receiver 23, which is pretty damn high for most websites. Austin, you are our lowest at 36, which I'm going to be honest, isn't that low. It's that whole situation where you don't hate Travis Hunter. You just don't see the path right away. So Joel, get us started on why we might be wrong about Travis Hunter.
I'd like to add before you start, Joel, you have him 7 spots higher or 11 spots higher than DK Metcalf. Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Yes, because I think Travis Hunter has actual ceiling that DK Metcalf does not. I comped him to Garrett Wilson coming out as a receiver. Now, there was like in dynasty drafts, there was like real concern that he was going to have to split his snaps between corner and wide receiver. They're going to use him as a wide receiver and just sneak him in at cornerback a little bit. He's going to be mostly a wide receiver. So yeah, I'm right back in on him as a dynasty prospect, as a wide receiver for this year. Like this offense is going to be really good. Like you're taking a Shanahan McVay coach and putting him with a Trevor Lawrence, who has never had a competent offensive coach. Doug Peterson sucks. What Urban Meyer was an abhorrent disaster. This offense, he's going to do for Trevor Lawrence what he did for Baker Mayfield last year. This offense is going to cook. They got BTJ, they got Hunter, they've got a good running game. They've got volume in the running game. So, I like Hunter quite a bit.
Austin, and again, I'm not saying you hate Travis Hunter. You just happen to be the lowest at 36. Do you have a counter, or is it just one of those things where you're just not seeing the path yet?
I mean, my counter is I don't feel like he's going to play more on offense than he is on defense. I think he's going to play more on defense than he's going to play on offense. I think he was a better cornerback prospect than a wide receiver prospect. And it doesn't mean he won't get meaningful offensive snaps, but I just think like at this point in the season, we still don't know. Like it's preseason. We don't know what the actual snaps are going to be. The latest count that I can find on his snaps during team periods is 188 on offense, 176 on defense. That's technically more on offense. But here's the thing that I said about this on the Market Like a Hot show when we talked about him last week. I think he has more to learn on offense than he does on defense. The job on defense for him is simple. Cover the guy that's in front of you. The job on offense is not as simple. It's learn all this route tree, learn all these different formations, where you're lining up, when you're going in motion, when you get the snap counts. It's very different than learning how to cover a guy and be faster than somebody on defense. So I think that they're giving him more work now, and we don't know that that's actually going to how it's play out in the regular season. I also have concerns overall about the Jags. Defensive snaps aside, like I don't trust them to sustain 2 top 30 receivers from a fantasy perspective, because I think A, Brian Thomas is a stud, and B, like I have concerns about this offensive line and just the overall offensive ecosystem. So that's kind of like where I'm at on this, regardless of what you think about his IDP value.
Josh, Chris, where do you guys fall on the two sides of that?
Go ahead, Chris.
Damn it! I was hoping you to go first. I'm pretty much in the middle, right smack in the middle between Austin and Joel. So I agree with them both. I think this does more for Trevor Lawrence and more to help take the pressure off Brian Thomas Jr. than necessarily Travis Hunter's standalone value. But I think he's also going to be a monster in the red zone. You don't trade the kind of package that Jacksonville did to not heavily feature him in the red zone along with Brian Thomas Jr. So yeah, I'm right at 31. I don't know.
Josh?
Yeah, I have him at 32. I'll be honest, I've slowly been moving him up my rankings. The more preseason games I watch, the more noise that comes out of camp. I will say my biggest worry with this offense is exactly what Austin pointed out. This offensive line is absolute dog shit, plain and simple. We've talked on NPI previously about, the prospects of Liam Cohen as a head coach.
The Tampa Bay comps. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Tampa Bay comps, it's all there. I mean, he's playing the Chris Godwin role. He's lining up in the slot. Like, if that's the ceiling, like, sign me up. Right. But then you got to worry about, this is a first-time defensive coordinator, right? He doesn't, Liam Cohen doesn't have a veteran voice on the defensive side of the ball to where he can only say, you know what, you got the defense, I can handle the offense kind of thing. The way that some of these other, first-time head coaches, like look at Ben Johnson in Chicago, like he brought in a former head coach, an established defensive mind in Dennis Allen, whether that's good or bad or not or whatever, but he knows how to handle the room. This, first-time defensive coordinator that Liam Cohen has in Jacksonville, they don't have that. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and it's going to test his mettle as a head coach. And that could potentially take away from whatever upside we think that this offense can have. That's why I think that yes, there's definitely a world where he finishes as a top 36 wide receiver. Hell, there's a world where he finishes as a top 12 wide receiver, because that is just how good this offense can be, because we literally saw it last year in Tampa with two pretty damn good wide receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. BTJ was the wide receiver 4 in fantasy last year. Let's not forget that. Travis Hunter, there are people, Joel, you compliment the Garrett Wilson. Some people are throwing around OBJ. He is a skilled wide receiver. Like, there is a lot of untapped talent with this kid. It's ultimately going to be, is that defense going to be so bad that they need to use him on defense? Because if he's literally going like 50-50 or 70-30, whatever it is, I don't know that he's going to play all 17 games. Like, I just don't think anybody's body can handle that. Let's be honest.
He is the enigma. I'm going to start again with Austin and Joel, because I know you both are further into IDP than Josh and Chris. There are leagues out there where they have added IDP flex spots or corner spots for fun. There's obviously full IDP leagues, but they're not coming here for advice on Travis Hunter. But if you play in a league that has one IDP spot, and we happen to be doing the Club Fantasy Writers League right now, Travis Hunter was the 4th overall pick, because you can start him as a wide receiver in IDP. Joel, you're already the highest on him. If you can start this man at corner and get all of the offense and all of the defensive points, what does that do for his value this year?
If you can start him at corner and your corner scoring is depressed, like most IDP's scoring systems are, he could literally be the most valuable player relative to position in the league. So take that for what it is. He's probably worth a first-round pick. If you're playing him at wide receiver and you can get his corner stats, that's nice. But yeah, it's not going to do that much for you. So yeah, it all depends on where you can play him.
Austin, you and I obviously have bonded over fantasy baseball this year. The initial, comps for Travis Hunter was Shohei Ohtani, and obviously he changed the rules of fantasy baseball a little bit. Is Travis Hunter just that much more valuable if you could play him at corner?
Yeah, I think definitely if you can play him even at defensive back, then I'm way more interested on him, because to the point of, like, does he show up in the red zone? Then if he is getting typical cornerback loads and is doing a decent job tackling, and then he may get a touchdown on top of that any given game because he's available in the red zone, then I'm fully in on him in that position.
Josh and Chris, I don't want to put you on the spot with IDP. If you guys have anything to chime in, please do.
I mean, for me, it just boils down to position, advantage, right? Like, it's the same thing we talk about at, tight end with McBride and Bowers, the same thing we talk about at quarterback with Lamar and Josh Allen. So, kind of what Joel was talking about, like if you're playing them at corner and you're getting all of those wide receiver points, tell me what the cornerback scoring is, because I feel like when it comes to IDP scoring,
great point.
It is so all over the place more than offensive scoring in fantasy football. So, corners don't get a ton of tackles, plain and simple. As a rookie, I think that he's going to be targeted no matter the fact that he was the 2nd overall pick. Like, corner or offenses still threw at Sauce Gardner, even though he was the top, fourth overall pick in his respective draft. Like, corners get targeted because teams are going to test rookies, plain and simple. So when he's playing defense, he's going to have opportunities for tackles. And that's something that Joe Zolo talks about all the time. Grab your bad corners because they get a lot of tackles in fantasy, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Travis Hunter is bad, but he's going to get tested, which means he's going to get thrown at, which means he's going to have more tackle opportunities. But because I don't think he plays more than 30% of the defensive snaps, maybe he's only seeing 25 to 30 tackles all season. Maybe he gets 2 or 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Is that a game changer for IDP scoring? I don't think it is. But again, I don't play a ton of IDP leagues. So,
well, that's if you're only getting the IDP points with him.
But again, even if you're adding that on to whatever he brings you from a wide receiver, like I have him top 32, some of us have him top 24, like, maybe that vaults him as a top 15 wide receiver, right? But maybe that also puts him as a top 3 corner.
I was going to say, then you have to look and see what a top 15 wide receiver measures up to corners in your scoring.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it also just really depends on whether or not it's a cornerback dedicated IDP position or if it is a defensive back position where you can play either a safety or a cornerback. At that point, if you can play a defensive back, I think it is then probably it's a coin flip to me between some of the best defensive backs and Travis Hunter, who can have that receiving upside. If it is a cornerback dedicated spot, Travis Hunter is going to be likely the stable force because cornerbacks will fluctuate from week to week unless you have good scoring. But likely they will fluctuate. They'll have 3 points one week and 12 points the next week, whereas Travis Hunter as a cornerback only in those formats may be able to consistently get you 10 points because of his offensive production.
Chris, anything to throw in on the IDP part of it?
Josh said he doesn't play in that many IDP leagues. I don't play in any IDP leagues, nor will I ever play in IDP.
Well, then, Chris, get me started as we get to the deep sleepers, the players outside of the top 36. I gave you guys the chance to talk to me about one guy who we haven't mentioned on this show yet. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, it's Darnell Mooney. We'll see what the new look offense is in Atlanta. I'm talking about Michael Penix Jr. Darnell Mooney was a wide receiver 31 last year. He had blow-up games. He was good for both daily fantasy and best ball. If he can find some consistency, he could be a decent flex option with upside. And to close, I think Austin took a cop out in this one, so I'd like to see that.
Well, I'm gonna let Austin and Joel go last because it's kind of another rap battle for those two. So Josh, you're up next.
Another rap battle. Oh my God, that's great. I went with Matthew Golden. Joel being the resident Packers fan, I feel like I'm kind of holding that mantle this year. I'm pretty bullish on the Packers. I actually think they win the North this year. But I've said this all off season. I think drafting a wide receiver in the first round, regardless of whether you think Matthew Golden was the right wide receiver they should have taken, that tells me that they're going to centralize the passing game after experimenting with this whole like wide receiver one by committee aspect. I've not been shy about the fact that I think that Josh Jacobs regresses. Usually when he has these high volume years, he tends to come back down to earth, which again is going to open up avenues in the passing game. There's been trade rumors floated around with Romeo Doubs. At the end of the day, while he's been, the leader in terms of targets per game, Dobbs is nothing special. He catches touchdowns, but doesn't really move the change. Matthew Golden has the chance to be a game breaker in this offense, and something that he has shown in camp and in these games. He has bully hands. He is not afraid to go get that football, and he will come down with it. And while I do have Jayden Reed ranked higher in terms of the Packers wide receivers, this is what we've said for the last couple of years when it comes to Jayden Reed. The Packers and Matt LaFleur will run a ton of 12 personnel. Guess who's coming off the field? It's Jayden Reed. Yeah. Matthew Golden will be on the field. So if they're throwing from this 12 personnel, there's a very good chance that Matthew Golden leads this team in target share. And that's ultimately going to open up a ton of more opportunities for him without having to get the ball schemed to him the way that they do Jayden Reed.
Joel and Austin, you guys I've been putting you against each other the last few sections, but you each picked Tampa Bay wide receivers here. Austin, I'm going to let you get started since you've been called out already.
Yeah, well, the problem is I was indeed the last person to come to the show sheet. And so, you only gave me the cheap options left. I wanted to pick Darnell Mooney or Mika Ibuka, but I did go with Chris Godwin. And sure, it's a cop-out, but it's also like a very logical answer that Chris Godwin could once again be a top 24 wide receiver very easily, as I mentioned before he got hurt last year. And well, even by the end of the year, he was the number 2 receiver in terms of points per game. And so again, if he didn't get hurt, we would be talking about him very differently. He'll probably have a slow comeback from the field, and I am concerned about that, but he is my favorite. I will bet on that because, again, like in that situation, you have 3 starting receivers potentially. You're betting on him to help you down the stretch when you need somebody in the playoffs. Maybe somebody else gets hurt in the process and you need him to fill in. I like having him around on my roster.
Great pick, Austin. I agree.
Joel, you went the other way with this. With drafts starting in a couple of weeks, it feels like the Emeka Ibuka hype train is just getting started.
Yeah, I almost feel like I cheated on this one. It's like
you too.
Really
I agree.
He's not in the top 36, really? Honestly, this just goes to show how fast things can change, right? On draft night, we're like, where's he going to play? Like they're taking another receiver. Where's he going to play? Now, McMillan's got a neck injury. He's going to miss at least half the season. Godwin, we find out, has had a second surgery, and now it's August 20th, and he still hasn't started running. We got the report earlier this week.
Yep.
That's bad. Like he's almost certainly starting on PUP. He probably will miss the first half of the season as well. So, now he's running. He's basically running in Godwin's spot next to Mike Evans. And he's an elite prospect. He's basically a Jackson Smith and Jigba level prospect that's going to fit in the exact kind of system that should be utilizing that prospect extremely well.
When I started hosting these shows, I think my favorite question I came up with is this one. And we've given some good players. I talked about it with running back last week. If your last pick of the draft had to be a wide receiver, and obviously we're factoring an ADP here, so I'm making you guys pick players that are outside of the ADP top 150. Last year, we called Quentin Johnston, Jalen McMillan, and Darnell Mooney on this very show. So picking these players last doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the worst wide receiver on your team. You could be looking at wide receiver 3s and even wide receiver 2s here. Josh, if your last pick of the draft had to be a wide receiver, who are you taking?
Yeah, so I actually named 2 of them.
Yeah, because you don't follow orders.
I don't, because you know what? I started this show, so whatever. I went with Patriots wide receiver Demario Douglas and then Buffalo receiver Josh Palmer. The case is pretty simple. We've seen Josh McDaniels with slot receivers in the past. If this ultimately becomes Demario Douglas's role, and I do say if, because Stephon Diggs, when he was in Houston last year, he was predominantly their slot receiver. So it's I don't think it's really been set in stone yet which way Diggs is going to go, if he's going to start more outside or inside. But for a 15th round pick, 16th round pick, I'm willing to take that chance on Demario Douglas. And with Josh Palmer, it's pretty simple. Quite frankly, he's just a better wide receiver than Keon Coleman. People don't want to realize that. He knows how to separate. He can get down the field. He doesn't need to have jump balls the way that Keon Coleman does because he knows how to separate. All the reports that are coming out of Bills camp is that Josh Allen loves throwing to this guy. He's learned from Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and he was behind Ladd McConkey last year. Now he really doesn't have a true number 1 in front of him. Like Khalil Shakir is great, but he has one skill and it's over the middle. Josh Palmer can be that boundary X guy that this offense truly has not had. There is a chance that you're looking at a top 30 wide receiver simply because Josh Allen is the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills.
Josh Allen, Josh Palmer, Josh Hudson. I smell a conspiracy. I'm not buying into this. Joel, this might be your first Green Bay Packers mention of the evening.
Yeah, I said Christian Watson. And honestly, I've been a Christian Watson guy the entire time of his career, but I was completely out on him once he tore his ACL. But he got to camp, and this team is saying that they are blown away by how quickly he has recovered. He is running, he is cutting. And this isn't like Javonte Williams pretend cutting. He's legitimately cutting. Wow. They expect him to be – he's going to start on PUP, but they expect him to be ready by week 5. And Josh talked about Matthew Golden. I'm taking the L on that on the draft night show. I said I hated the pick. Kid looks like an absolute baller, but he was not drafted to be an X. He was drafted to be their Z, more of a Chris Olave type behind and playing with Christian Watson and opening up things for Christian Watson to get deep, and Christian Watson using that deep speed to open up things for Golden underneath. So yeah, I think people just aren't drafting him because of the ACL, and I think he's a supreme athlete. He was a legitimate 9'9" RAS guy, and if that's going to help him get back from this injury. I think I was very skeptical, but the team has been completely blown away by how fast he's recovering.
Austin, Kayshon Boutte came on to end the year for the New England Patriots last year, and looks like he's fighting for a starting spot again this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be on the field in 11 personnel settings, which I think will be really beneficial for him. It's funny, like I was looking at this, I started at ADP 150 and started scrolling down, and I was like, oh, there's not really anybody I enjoy here, but Kayshon Boutte that late. And like when I say my last pick, it is like my literal last pick in best ball. Yeah. It's like 18 to 20, around 18 to 20. And so like a lot of redraft leagues don't even go that deep. So I want to be clear, like I'm not picking him with my last pick in most redraft leagues because he's going to be available on the waivers.
That's why I had you guys do ADP 150 because it could be your 13th round pick. But as Austin pointed out, you do not have to spend a 13 on Kayshon Boutte. So.
Yeah, and I wouldn't. But I think he's a really great late round dart throw. If you have a deeper league or if you are in the setup, because I do think Drake May is going to take a step forward. I think the New England Patriots offense is going to take a step forward. And he had some real ceiling games down the stretch. And he had a pretty consistent role from week 6 on. He had at least 5 targets in every game but one. And most of the time it was 6 or 7 targets. Now, if you have a little bit extra pass volume go up because this offense takes a step forward and the offensive line is a little bit better, he can have a little bit more potential on that front.
Chris, bring us home with the correct choice.
I would say, you want to boo? Let's wait till see if Kayshon Boutte makes the actual Patriots roster first. Says the roster. They've got Demario Douglas, Matt Collins, Stephon Diggs, and Kyle Williams already locked in positions. Efton Chisholm's making waves. They have second round Jalen Polk. Where is Kayshon Boutte going to fit?
This is not go at Austin. This is go.
Okay, if we get to rebut things,
we are not rebutting. We are at 90 minutes already. Chris,
he booed me.
To Marvin Mims.
I booed Brian for trying to give you a softball.
For adding my commentary.
Marvin Mims is the starting wide receiver for the Denver Broncos and the team where Bo Nix threw 29 touchdowns. They just got rid of LA. He's going to be on the field more than he's ever been, and he's already an explosive wide receiver. He, if they use him, he could have 100 plus targets, 10 plus touchdowns, 1,200 plus yards. He can be a top 24 wide receiver. So why not take that shot?
There you go. And we're going to wrap the show up just like we did last week based on your typical draft strategy and factoring in ADP. So you can't say Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Malik Nabers. Who are your perfect 3 wide receivers this season? And I see by my list, I have a bunch of people who are going wide receiver early, which I know brings a tear to Joel's eye. Joel, you're the father of this. Go ahead and get us started. Who are your perfect 3 wide receivers this season?
Yeah, I did try. Unlike Josh, I don't play in 14 leagues, so I did try to take guys who you could legitimately take.
I think Josh's first 3.
That was one spot. It's an or.
Exactly. Yeah. I was about to fight him too.
I said Nico Collins, Drake London, and Garrett Wilson.
And you've pretty much talked those guys up, so I'm sure you don't mind. I'm not going to give you any time to talk about those players. But
the guy we haven't talked about is London, who I think
that's a good point.
Who has a legitimate case to be the wide receiver 1 this year in that offense, especially if Mooney misses any time. Like he could push a 30% target share as well. That offense is going to be spectacular because their defense is going to be so freaking bad.
And for anybody who didn't tune in last week, Joel is notorious 0 RB. So Joel, these would be your first 3 picks. So I think you might even be able to get Garrett Wilson in the 4th sometimes.
Yeah, I usually not in my drafts, but yeah.
not in Joel's drafts.
Sometimes you can get him in the late 30s. Yeah.
Perfect. Josh, why don't you go ahead and end the confusion with the 6 names that you entered in here?
Yeah, well, 5, but no, I put Nico Nabers or BTJ as like my first guy because just really depending on where I'm sitting in my draft, but it's kind of like anywhere between 6 and I'd say 9. But I think any of these guys you can get in the back end of the first or kind of in that wraparound in the second. I'm usually an anchor RB guy, but I've seen both any of these 3 guys falling into that top part of the second round. And then I've got Tyreek Hill and Tetairoa McMillan kind of rounding that out. Yeah. Tyreek I've seen fall all the way to the 4th round. Like people just seem very allergic to him. And I will happily take him in the third as my wide receiver 2 because I think he has wide receiver 1 upside. And I'm very much on board with Tetairoa and McMillan as a top 24 guy this year that could very easily push for top 15 production.
Yeah, someone who does the opposite of all you guys, where I go running back early, Tyreek has kind of been a godsend for me because I've been able to get him in a lot of third and fourth rounds when I desperately need a wide receiver 1. Austin, talk to me about your perfect 3.
Yeah, my perfect 3. I'm assuming that I'm taking a running back in the first round, hopefully a Bijan Robinson. And so then I'm getting AJ Brown, who is often going in the second round, Marvin Harrison, often in the third round, and Rome Odunze. All guys we've talked about, all guys that I think are very undervalued right now. I think I could come away with at least 2 top 10 receivers from that and probably 3 top 20.
Chris, I was ready to fight you on yours, and then I went and looked at the ADP. I am shocked about the non-love that Brian Thomas Jr. is getting right now.
I was going to say, I lined this up to where, third round. And that's my cutoff for 3 perfect wide receivers. I would love to have Brian Thomas Jr. in the second round. So I'm like, well, who can I get in the first round? Oh, Puka, of course, 175 target monster. And then third round, I've already hyped up Marvin Harrison Jr. I think, for a zero RB build, that would be a massive advantage to the rest of the field, those 3 guys.
Yeah, Josh, if you could ban Hoove for the Bryce Young right now, I think it's probably worth it. Lose a subscriber real quick. Guys, you rode with us for 95
For
minutes.
those referencing, he's talking about McMillan not having a quarterback, and we don't accept Bryce Young slander on MPI. Yeah.
While I did slander Tetairoa McMillan and the whole offense, I will not accept Bryce Young slander. You guys rode with us for 95 minutes. These shows just keep getting longer. I will not be here next week and we're talking tight ends. I will be shocked if this show goes 90 minutes next week. For everybody on the show, their Twitter handles are in their names. Follow them. Follow Club Fantasy on all the socials at clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. It is tight ends next week. We'll see you then. Have a good night.